the same systems, the same mechanisms that steered huge amounts of our money into those bad things could be used to steer vast amounts of our money into other bad things, like building AI data centers. Jonathan Broadbent here, founder and creator of UnWoke.Academy and the Financial PMA, with another Market Minute. This one focused on your 401k account and accounts like it. There's a video that was brought to my attention from the Shannon Joy Show. Shannon Joy is new to me. I'm not very familiar with her program, but she introduced a topic that included Edward Dowd, who I do follow and pay attention to. That led me into a video that was actually an interview with Brannon Howse. Brannon Howse I also don't know much about, but it was actually a very compelling interview. There's a little bit to unpack here, so bear with me, but this proves to be another aha, I told you so kind of moment. I didn't used to be an aha, I told you so sort of person, but recently I've become one because I've been talking about things for many years now, and when they come true, it does give me that opportunity to point back to some of the videos that I've done and some of the posts, the newsletters and commentary that I've been making, going back actually to about 2007 for some of it, and pointing to some of the things that are a problem in today's financial world. So let's start off by unpacking just a short segment of the video. I'll include the link in the show notes to both the Shannon Joy Show, so you can watch her full episode, and the Brannon Howse live show, which includes and contains the interview with Edward Dowd.
It's tokenization of everything. Basically, the way Catherine Austin Fitts describes it, and I agree with her, right now, currently, when you have a sale or a purchase, there are two parties. There's me and there's the company. Tokenization introduces a third person in the party who gets to approve that transaction. And that's the scariest thing. Right now, I can interact with someone and buy something, and someone can interact with me and buy something that I offer. You get tokenization involved, it gives a central planner the ability to veto the transaction. And I think that is definitely anti-humanity, anti-freedom, capitalism. It's a massive land grab and power grab.
So is that where the whole you'll own nothing and be happy by 2030 thing comes in? Because we were all trying to figure that out. Is that where that comes in?
I think so. And look, tokenization would introduce the ability of someone to a third party to approve or not approve the transaction. I mean, you want to go to the dystopian end of this. Let's say central planners decided they wanted meat quotas. And you go to the grocery store, and I guess you've already had your meat quota for the month. They would be able to block that transaction at the register. So the person at the register couldn't do anything and would tell you to return the meat. And if you tried to take it out of there, you'd be stealing, even though you had the money.
So you may be wondering what this has to do with your 401k account or IRA or other type of savings vehicle for your future. And that'd be a great question. The answer to that question lies in the title of this episode from the Shannon Joy Show. The title of the episode is Pension Plunder. Trump and BlackRock target your retirement. It's a special report. I'm not so sure about the Trump administration as a whole. However, there is a member of Trump's administration with very strong ties to Wall Street, and some people on Wall Street in particular, including the current spokesperson of BlackRock, who have spoken openly about creating funding vehicles through your 401k account. This gets a little bit complicated. I have touched on this in prior episodes, but it has everything to do with allowing private investment inside of your 401k account. As things stand, the only types of investments that are permitted are things like mutual funds. And I've already covered the issues and drawbacks of many, or arguably most, of today's mutual funds and publicly traded stocks. There are some big advantages in shifting the composition of your 401k account into buying and holding with a long-term strategy some stocks rather than funneling money through mutual funds, including transparency, knowing what you own, controlling those proxy votes, and potentially reducing the amount of fee burden, the fees that you pay in the 401k account. However, there's been a recent push to allow your 401k account to invest in things that are not publicly traded. They're private ventures. If that comes to pass, that I could argue either way. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. It could fairly easily be manipulated and steered by bad actors within government. I'm not saying that I clearly see indications of that from the Trump administration, but let's play this on both sides for a little clarity's sake. Let's say that Trump is a good figure and wants to do well for the American people and opens up an investment avenue into private equity, private investment that isn't currently available in 401k accounts. And that could be used well, if designed well, to fund all sorts of free market, capital market enterprise. However, let's flip the script and let's say that somebody bad gets into office and applies pressure to steer investment dollars, and those right now, let's put that in context, that's around 46 to 47 trillion dollars in today's US retirement accounts. Around 13 trillion of that is in 401k accounts. So let's just boil it down to some basic back of the napkin math. Let's say we're talking about $13 trillion in those 401k accounts. If some bad actor came in and effectively did the same sorts of things that California is doing in their deposit programs for things like a mandatory IRA, if they were to do that same sort of thing on a federal level, then you're talking about steering huge portions of $13 trillion into specific types of private capital, private markets. It is within the power of federal government to do that sort of steering, and it could be detrimental. It could be very harmful. And for the purposes of anybody wishing to build that sort of surveillance state apparatus, and we know that they exist. I mean, Gavin Newsom, for heaven's sakes, is pretty much on record. He's publicly said that he admires what's being done in communist China to track, control, and monitor the populace. So we at least have some people in the United States. Whether or not that's widespread within government is an argument and a debate for another segment. For now, let's just play devil's advocate and assume that it could happen and maybe is currently planned for. If that's the case, you're talking about needing to come up with giant sums of money in order to build massive infrastructure, the primary component of which is AI data centers, which would allow for this sort of thing. So let's put all this together. If this is true, and if this concern is legitimate, and it's at least at a minimum worth looking at and talking about, we are seeing the steering of not just tax dollars and tax credits and incentives to build AI data centers. We're also simultaneously seeing the huge explosive growth in what are called flock cameras. Those are cameras that are put up all over the place under the auspices of tracking for vehicle infringements, traffic violations, and speeding tickets or whatever. That's the cover that's being provided. However, we know that many or most of these are designed to do much more than gauge your speed and send a ticket if you're speeding. They are designed to report on, monitor, collect data on all traffic movement, all license plates, and track people's movements and then put those together. If done to a nefarious end, you're talking about being able to do that at a societal level, to know where people are, to combine geolocation from smartphones, vehicle traffic, meaning your license plate, and your posting, your positions, your beliefs, where you're spending money, how you're spending money, how much money you have, what types of currencies you have, tracking cryptocurrency, which is an issue that I've brought up a number of times. There's huge appetite right now on the part of governmental organizations and quasi-governmental groups in getting a hold of data about people's cryptocurrency. Put all that together and it starts to form a very dark-looking possible future for the United States. Thankfully, there are some people that are fighting back against these data centers and the flock cameras. Our purpose and mission here at UnWoke.Academy is, as always, unpack things but follow the money. If it is true that that level of money is needed, and I have no indication otherwise, it's going to take, for sure, 10 to 20 or perhaps more trillion dollars to build out that kind of infrastructure. And if built, it is very fair to say that that creates a digital gulag. It is a digital censorship environment that can control mass population. We're seeing it at play in places like communist China. So this isn't some sort of futuristic dystopian commentary. It actually does exist. And if you like the West and agree with American values and free markets and owning your own property, you should be prepared to resist these things. Tap the brakes and make sure that your money isn't steered into funding these sorts of things. The way that it's been steered over the past 6 or so years into funding environmental, social, and governance, and diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that nightmare has already happened. I've shown time and time again that Wall Street steered our money, vast amounts of it, extraordinary, overly ridiculous amounts of money, into a small handful of companies that checked all the boxes on those things, which means a couple of people, a small number of people, got extraordinarily uber wealthy. It's possible that the same systems, the same mechanisms that steered huge amounts of our money into those bad things could be used to steer vast amounts of our money into other bad things, like building AI data centers. With any questions, feel free to reach me at jonathan@unwokeinvesting.com. Thanks for tuning in.